we want.
Centuries-old African artifacts housed in European institutions and valued at billions of dollars should be returned to their rightful owners. This call for restitution is growing louder across Africa as the continent confronts historical injustices that continue to impact its people and cultures. Throughout history, social and economic injustices in Africa have led to the loss of valuable human resources and cultural wealth. Today, the quest for justice and reparations for Africa's painful history is gaining significant momentum. From the depths of the transatlantic slave trade to the scars left by colonialism and the ongoing effects of neo-colonial exploitation, the call for reparative justice resonates louder than ever. As leaders, scholars, and activists unite, the need for stronger legal and institutional frameworks to support reparations has never been more urgent. President John Dramani Mahama of Ghana explained the gravity of these historical crimes.
The transatlantic slave trade was one of the most heinous crimes against humanity, spanning about 400 years and forcibly displacing more than 12.5 million Africans. It is estimated that at least 2 million of our compatriots perished during the Middle Passage alone. The legacy of this brutal system, along with colonialism, apartheid, genocide, and neo-colonial exploitation, have left deep and enduring scars on the fabric of our societies. Today, the descendants of enslaved Africans continue to face economic disparities, social inequality, systemic discrimination, and racial prejudices. Addressing these challenges require more than just acknowledging them. It demands action.
Speaking at the Accra Reparations Conference, President Mahama emphasized the need for a comprehensive approach to reparative justice. This includes financial compensation, restitution, rehabilitation, and most importantly, guarantees to prevent future injustices. In November 2023, the Accra Reparations Conference took a pivotal step forward by bringing together African leaders, scholars, and diaspora representatives to lay the groundwork for stronger advocacy and policy frameworks that support reparations for Africa. At the 38th African Union Summit, leaders officially endorsed the theme for 2025, Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations. This theme captures the collective aspirations of African nations to ensure that justice is done for those whose lives were ravaged by slavery, colonization, and systemic racial discrimination. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia stressed at this year's summit that the demand for reparations is not about charity or financial aid, it's a call for justice.
The demand for reparations is not about charity or financial aid. It is a call for justice. It seeks to restore the dignity of millions and heal the deep scars of poverty, inequality, and discrimination. It demands an end to the systematic exploitation of our wealth, resources, and opportunities. It also calls for a transformative process that acknowledges past harms and takes bold steps to right the wrongs caused upon us, upon society across the continent.
Professor Hakim Adi, a British historian specializing in African affairs, offered his insight on the return of cultural artifacts.
So many artifacts stolen from various African countries, effectively simply looted, and they all need to be returned. And African countries would be much stronger in those demands for the return of stolen cultural artifacts if they united under the auspices of the AU and as a continent demanded the return of these artifacts. So that is certainly the kind of repair that could be undertaken by the AU if it was minded to take that action.
Artifacts looted during colonial conquests are painful reminders of Africa's exploitation. These priceless cultural items have been scattered across museums and private collections worldwide. As the economic value of these artifacts has skyrocketed, so too has the resistance to their return. Robin Walker, Vice President of the Global Black Center and a prominent historian, emphasized the importance of returning African artifacts.
Artifacts are assets. Assets go up in value. And if you've got artifacts that were made 500 years ago, they have been appreciating in value over 500 years. That's why they're now worth millions. And if you've got several artifacts from a particular civilization, you are sitting on billions. Getting those artifacts back is a struggle because they are holding on to wealth. We at the Global Black Center believe that these artifacts should be brought back.
Cultural heritage and the call for reparations are inseparable. For centuries, African heritage has been misappropriated, and the return of stolen artifacts is not merely about recovering lost treasures. It's about restoring dignity and identity to Africa. Experts like Professor Hakim Adi and Robin Walker stress the need for Pan-African solidarity to address this issue, advocating for a unified policy to return cultural assets rather than relying on disparate national efforts. Leonard Philip, an international financial crime complaints consultant and African studies scholar, also emphasized the need for a unified voice from Africa and its diaspora.
The unifying on Africa is key, is a key strategy for us to approach these matters with one voice, and us coming together with one African unified voice and saying, listen, these are our artifacts, these are our art, be repatriated to Africa, individual African countries.
The African Union Summit represents a critical opportunity to advocate for the return of Africa's stolen cultural treasures, address systemic discrimination, and ensure that reparative justice is realized on a global scale. As African leaders convened to discuss justice, healing, and restoration, the international community took note. Desta Mego, a reparations expert at the Diaspora Africa Forum, underscored the importance of the 38th African Union Summit held in February 2025 as a key platform for advancing the reparations agenda.
The African Union 38th Summit has decided that this year's theme is the focus on reparatory justice and racial healing under justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations. And this mouthful of a theme includes the return of artifacts that were stolen, looted, whether during the act of slavery, which was a crime against humanity. One of the worst crimes against humanity is the transatlantic slave trade, or whether it was done in the commission of wars or invasions or occupation. Having a framework that is continental gives us more power, more strength to be able to lobby and access what is ours and change policies.
Reparations encompass a broader and more profound agenda than financial compensation. They seek to heal Africa from the historical traumas of the past while addressing the contemporary injustices that continue to affect the continent. Professor Azra Aaron, founder of the Center for Global Africa in the USA, and former African Union chairperson Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, agreed on the need to correct historical injustices.
Reparations is not just a simple thing of receiving payments. It occurs on a lot of different levels. And so the self-reparative things that we could do as Africa and the diaspora, the Center for Global Africa, we're doing those things in alignment with the mission of APRM to evaluate governance, the socioeconomic performance of nations, make recommendations, and then see how we can work together in transformative ways.
We need to correct the historic injustices. It's not about individuals getting money, but it's about correcting historic injustices. That's why I'm saying it's important for us to discuss how and what are we going to present.
From economic exploitation to climate justice, the reparations agenda calls for comprehensive redress, a future where Africa's development is no longer held back by the burdens of its history. Zambian Foreign Minister Mulambo Haimbe shared his view on the importance of reparations.
The theme of this year's summit is very, very important. It speaks to the issue of reparation, which has become a topical issue across the world. How do those that caused injustice across the many years of our development as a continent get to repair the damage that they've done? Very important conversation, which I think we must have as candidly as possible on the continent and, of course, beyond.
The movement for reparations is at a turning point. As Africa's leaders unite for justice, the world must recognize that reparations are not a choice, they are a necessity. It is time for the world to confront the deep, enduring wounds of Africa's past and begin the long overdue process of reconciliation and restoration. Together, Africa can rise, reclaim its heritage, and ensure that the injustices of the past are finally addressed.
The Africa we want. The Africa we want.